So this here, where we are now, what you can see is Kidsgrove. It's North Staffordshire, and we're in a community centre that's based right on the bottom end of an estate. The estate was built by the coal board. It used to be an old coal miners' estate, and all the people that kind of worked and lived on here originally would have had something to do with the coal mine that was at the top of the hill. And then the coal board built this community centre, and they still own it, and the Methodist Church have rented it off them. So we've got a new 10-year lease. We're about 3 years into that, and so the Kidsgrove's right next to North Staffordshire, next to Stoke-on-Trent, which is famous for the potteries industry, and it's the coal mines here that fueled the potteries industry in the days gone by. So they got none of the glory, but all the coal and all the smog for it. So what do we do as Immerse? Our story's quite long and checkered, but where we've ended up is that we have a kind of rhythm to our life together. So we're a community that gathers. We gather on Sundays at about 1 o'clock, and our main function is eating. So we sit in the kitchen and we eat together. We prepare food together. Although we've had a new chef join us called Paul just recently, so we do a lot less cooking, but we eat a lot better since Paul's been a part of us. But we all kind of share in the kitchen, we have coffees, we eat together, and then about once a month we gather for worship. And our worship used to be big and loud and plugged in. And interestingly, over the kind of 3 or 4 years, our worship's kind of got quieter and quieter. And now it's a really informal Eucharistic Holy Communion service that we have together.
The people. I love that we're all crazy, we're all unique, we're all misfits, but everybody loves each other, everybody loves God, and everybody looks out for each other. And it doesn't matter what that looks like, it looks different every week. It might be something structured, it might be with the community, it might be eating, but the one thing is that we all come together, everybody loves each other, everybody loves the community, and everybody loves God. And that's what I love about Immerse.
There's something really exciting about starting church from scratch. So you don't have to live with, you don't have to convince people not to do the old thing in order to do a new thing. Or to change their patterns of behaviour. You just start it from scratch and you kind of work it out as you go along. So when we all got together, there's a question about, well, what kind of group do we want to be? What kind of community do we want to be? What does our worship feel like and look like? And we made a decision fairly early on that we wouldn't do the kind of big preach or the splitting off into Sunday schools and junior churches. There were all sorts of reasons why we made that decision, I think. Some of it had to do with some of our young people at the time just didn't really seem to enjoy junior churches and Sunday schools. And it wasn't that they were bad. Other kids loved them, but just happened the kids that we had didn't. But also we recognised that for those people that really enjoyed that kind of thing, there was plenty of churches out there that did that for them. And if people really wanted to do that, we could send them on to, we could help them go to those sorts of churches where that sort of thing could be done. So there was some kind of intentional decision right at the beginning. And that's changed. So I remember, one of the very first times we all got together, and this is tried and tested by lots of people, I know, but we just made bread together. So we all were in a table, we made bread, and we talked about bread stories from the Bible and stuff like that. And then we tried a bit of cafe church for a little bit, and kind of developing that, and we still do that sometimes. And now, like I say, it's a much more informal, just sit around in a circle almost and sharing communion. But we've decided actually we just do what we do, and our young people hang around it and just choose to join it. Some days, depends what mood they're in. Anybody who works with children and young people will know that. Depends what mood they're in. Some days they're really intense and intent on what we're doing. Other times they're just sat on their phone, but we allow that to kind of happen around us.
I like about them play again. I'm playing with the toys.
I like how we all join in with helping out Immerse.
The time that we gather together for worship isn't particularly aimed at, so if you looked at it, I guess it would look like all-age worship because there's adults and children all sat there together. But we would never call it all-age worship in the sense that we don't target any particular group. I guess the best way to think about it is using a phrase like something like communities of practice. So we practice a way of doing services in church, which is for us something around the liturgy of communion and something around that. We practice doing that, and we hope that both our young people, but also new people who arrive, we don't have to kind of culturate them in, we don't have to kind of teach them about it and then they can do it. We culturate them into it, so they just pick it up as they go along. And so our way of worshipping with young people, or as a way of worshipping as a family, adults and young people together, is to practice doing it, to do it, and see what happens when we all kind of do it together. So there's this lovely kind of balance between what happens on a Sunday, which is our kind of rhythm, our spiritual kind of burst, and that becomes the kind of heartbeat for what goes on during the rest of the week. And the stuff that goes on in the rest of the week, that's the stuff that everybody sees, that's the stuff actually that makes a real difference in other people's lives. And this heartbeat that just constantly kind of pounds here is us lot gathering, eating, worshipping on a Sunday. So we had to make a decision early on about whose space this is, and we decided it's not our space. We facilitate this space for other people, and we try and help it for other people. So one of the things that we do, if on our Sunday, when we normally meet, the community want it for a birthday party or for something else, we just cancel ours so that they can have it for theirs. And that's been quite liberating for us, actually, that we know it's not ours that we have to fill or make it right.
I like the eclectic mix that we are. Just an eclectic collective, I think, is what I mean due to call us. Just a family, with all of the idiosyncrasies that come with that. But yeah, good relationships, good time, good fun, good food.
We learned not to try too hard. So when we were, doing lots of kind of practicing, sending each other texts saying, right, these are the songs we might want this week, and this is the theme and all those things. I think we learned early on, let's just see what happens naturally when we kind of become very intentional about worship. So, and we struggle with that a little bit, I think. It's really difficult so we'll all get to the community centre, and then there'll be things set up, there'll be a bit of cooking going on already, the coffees will be started, and then somebody has to say, right, let's worship, shall we? We have to kind of get ourselves into that space. And then we have to spend a few moments just kind of sorting ourselves out, calming ourselves down. Then we can get into worship, and then we kind of go back into the stuff that eating and sharing and laughing and joking. For us, one of the other things I guess we've learned, and this isn't about particularly intergenerational worship, that's just a part of it, is that for Immerse, being a reflective community, being a community that continually reflects, and our worship, we hope, reflects something of our reflecting, if that makes sense.